Maybe he's just a guy trying to do the right thing.
We know better now, don't we? Devils don't come from hell beneath us.
They brought their warrior.
No, they come from the sky.
The world has been so caught up with what he can do that no one has asked what he should do.
That's how it starts.
Hi, welcome to What the Flick. It's the day you've all been waiting for. It's Batman v Superman. I've taken sides already, clearly. We've got Alonzo and Matt and Ben. We're all here. We've all seen it. We're going to do a spoiler-free talk, and then we're going to do a whole separate spoiler-tastic talk, so come back for that as well. Who wants to describe this 2.5-hour-long slog?
I'll describe it. All right, real quick though, if you don't want any spoilers, like you don't want to know anything about what happens in this movie, then go see it. Or don't. All right, so we start off 18 months after the events of Man of Steel, getting a lot of what happened with Bruce Wayne, although we also get kind of Bruce Wayne's take on what happened during the final climactic events of Man of Steel, and he's not happy about it, and he thinks that Superman is something needs to be done about that guy. Meanwhile, Superman, reporter Clark Kent, seems to be worried about some vigilante in Gotham, and then Lex Luthor decides that those two need to fight. That's it.
Let the record show that this committee holds him responsible.
That's how it starts. The fever. The rage that turns good men cruel.
This Bat vigilante is like a one-man reign of terror. You don't get to decide what the right thing is. Nobody cares about Clark Kent taking on the Batman.
This means something. It's all some people have. It's all that gives them hope.
People hate what they don't understand. Be their hero, Clark. Be their angel. Be their monument. Be anything they need you to be. Or be none of it. You don't owe this world a thing. You never did.
The things that Matt talked about there were the two weakest parts of the movie in many ways, and that's the fun.
Which is what the whole fucking movie's about.
Batman v Superman.
They just simply weren't done effectively enough. Like that Batman thought this guy needed to be reined in, and others did too. I mean, those crowd scenes, the chanting of the Superman has really caused all this havoc. I mean, it's illogical to think that we were invaded by marauding aliens and the police, if Superman is the police, was careless in some ways in dealing with it. What I liked about that was that was my objection to that movie.
To Man of Steel?
Jesus, the mayhem that is being caused, but that we're not feeling. Like, we see these buildings go down and we see that destruction of Metropolis in Man of Steel, but it was just like, stuff that happened in the background. We're like, you half thought, oh, I'm glad everyone got out of those buildings in time and there was only one injury.
Yeah, Zack Snyder likes his 9/11 imagery.
But without the 9/11 horror or pain or loss.
Yeah, so, and this time, whenever they knock a building down, there's Anderson Cooper or somebody else pops up saying, it's uninhabited, there's nobody there. Because obviously after the last movie, it was like, let's maybe not crush 1 million innocent civilians. Although at the beginning of the movie, we do find out that Bruce Wayne's building is one of the ones that went down and that he lost several employees that day.
Who was the guy he was on the phone with? Didn't he keep calling him Dad?
No.
Jack. Bruce Wayne's father, you may have heard, was brutally murdered when he was a child.
They're going to show it to you again. They're going to show you again.
Boy, I didn't know how that happened.
Yeah.
So I was like, because I literally couldn't hear him. He's yelling, and I thought he was saying Dad. I was like, all right, I guess he got adopted.
Right. So look, because we're going to get into the plot details and the catastrophic things that happen in this script. But really, my take on this movie, if we're going to step back and do the spoiler-free review, like, yeah, there's a couple of scenes that look cool, and that's kind of all this movie has going for it. Like, it
structurally,
at no
it's a
point,
mess.
you know, and it's not about the tone. Like, we all know you could do dark superhero movies. Chris Nolan nailed it, right? You can do action-packed, dark action thrillers. David Ayer's good about that, and we hope that Suicide Squad will be a good example of that. This movie sucks because at no point do you give a shit about any of the characters. And if the movie relies, if this movie is dependent upon you already being a fan, that's a problem. Because then at that point, like, if you're making a movie for the fans, you go in so many different directions that are so far afield of some of the classic stories that work really well that you're not even really doing good fan service. This movie stinks.
And it's just, and you talk about the tone, it's just there's a sameness to it that is sort of relentless. There's no variance whatsoever. And then there's one moment where they try to be funny. Okay, Wonder Woman is not a spoiler.
Yes.
Right, no,
She's in the posters, okay, so don't come at me. She's in this movie, as we all know. But like, there's a moment where they try to make a joke with her. Superman goes, "Is she with you?" Batman's like, "I thought she's with you." Like, they try to inject a joke.
There are a couple of attempts of like zinger humor lines, and
Batman's
they just
got jokes. Right, it's so jarring, it's so out of place because it exists no place else in this movie. Like, is Jesse Eisenberg supposed to be funny as Lex Luthor?
I don't know what's going on with that performance. Why do the movies always get Luthor wrong? Like,
Gene Hackman.
No, Gene Hackman is great, but his Luthor was a clown. This Luthor is a clown. It's like, I mean, the first time that Jesse Eisenberg emerged, I thought, oh, is he the toy man? Like, is that the twist here? Because that hair, like, what the hell?
Right. The Clancy Brown voiced Luthor that's in the animated series. Like, that's a good Luthor. That's the one we want to see.
I mean, like, from the John Byrne reboot of Superman onward, Luthor became like this. Basically, he presaged Donald Trump. He was this, like, ruthless industrialist who then became president, you know? And so they made that character less comic booky in the comic books, but the movies somehow never got that memo, and he's still this, like, you know, nutty sort of post-Zuckerberg, like, quippy, giggling, like that anyone wouldn't.
It's uncomfortable.
That anyone in the real world wouldn't look at this guy and think, you are an unstable lunatic.
You are formidable.
Amongst the reasons that Jesse Eisenberg is miscast in this is because it does come off like Batman v Superman v evil Mark Zuckerberg.
But given that he is so clearly on its face, no matter what you think of the performance, I didn't mind it as much as you guys, but he clearly is playing a lunatic. And so, like, there's one scene in the movie where the government is just handing him over anything he asked for. A government official who, I don't know who that was or what that guy was doing.
He was a
there.
senator, I think.
Yeah, but we don't, I mean, and I guess he had authority, right? None of that. So, but if you're going to make a dark movie, and this is dark, man, as you said it, Christy, there's no variance at all. It is a sameness to it throughout. That's why in our little quick review, it really did remind me of The Revenant. Like, The Revenant's way better, but there was just a degree of, like, again and again and again with the exact same look and feel. But if you're going to make one of these dark movies and then you're going to mess around or abdicate any sense of motivation for why these people are so dark, that's what I was getting at in the beginning, that I didn't believe Batman's anger at Superman would lead him to this singular focus on him, and certainly didn't believe Clark Kent was this motivated to find out this vigilante on the other side.
What this movie gets so totally wrong about newspapers. Yeah, your sports today. That's not what happened.
So you don't say cover football.
You know, and Perry White walks around spouting these, like, headlines and cliches. I'm like, not even Lawrence Fishburne can make that character believable for 2 seconds in this movie.
His Cowboy Curtis is more believable.
Totally.
If you like Spotlight, you will not like this. Yeah, and then Amy Adams, speaking of reporters and they getting things wrong, she is just a damsel in distress the entire time.
She is such a victim/hostage.
She is. I mean, literally, she gets saved from being thrown off a building. She gets saved from drowning. She gets saved from terrorists. Like, she just hangs out waiting for Superman to come and save her.
But she is tough first. I mean, she does, when he saves her at one point, it's because of her. She makes some consistent attempts at heroism that go wrong because she's not a superhero.
Right. She's Amy Adams.
But it's last thing. So Lex Luthor, in his effort to get the fight, like, his whole being that he spent, I guess, billions on, but he has more billions, is predicated on like hoping that Batman will do a thing that he never instructed. I mean, he really leaves a great deal.
He's really rolling the dice.
It's a terrible master plan. It's
Awesome.
terrible.
Did you guys know how close Metropolis and Gotham were to each other?
Yeah,
Right, it's Minnesota. It's
like Gatsby's house and where Daisy lives.
It's Shreveport,
Minneapolis,
Bossier
St. Paul.
City. All right, so we'll go do a big old spoiler talk
Yeah.
next. So tune in for that too. But what are our numbers here, guys?
I'm the generous one. I gave it a 5.5. It's mostly inept, but you're right. It does have some cool moments, and I've seen worse. Heaven knows, it's no sucker punch, but that's about the faintest praise you can come up with.
Nobody has sex during this.
Yeah, it's not,
during Sucker Punch.
It's not that's right. That's right. When we were watching Sucker Punch together.
People had sex during Sucker Punch. This doesn't happen here. Hopefully.
It was
not the press
it's not horrible. You know, he's a competent filmmaker. Like there were, I guess.
Right, it's in focus.
It's right. It's totally in focus. It's just not. It's actively not interesting. Aggressively not interesting. So I gave it a 4.1.
Okay. Matt?
Yeah, I don't like corporate mandated filmmaking because you can see the checklist that the studio gives. Like, don't make it funny. We like those dark Chris Nolan things. Don't make it funny at all. I mean, don't make it interesting. Do it dark.
Joyless.
Introduce a bunch of characters that are going to matter later in the most awkward way possible.
We got to set up the franchise, the shared universe that, Marvel's doing that, so we got to do that.
If you thought the introduction of the Secret Six in Amazing Spider-Man 2 was bad, you ain't seen nothing
and
yet.
give it to the guy who gets movies done on budget and on time. Done. That's what you get. And for me, it gets a 3.5.
Okay, I'm saying a 3.7, so our average is a 4.2. And where is it?
At the moment, about 35% on the tomato meter.
Yeah.
Lower than Man of Steel, lower than Superman Returns.
Tied with The Room.
That's that's less than half the score of Sharknado.
This is not even so bad, it's good bad, it's just bad. All right, so come on back and join our spoiler talk after you have seen the movie. Bye.